The gun community is celebrating the grand opening of Chuck's Guns, located in Beverly Hills, Florida. I will have the pleasure of speaking with a number of their staff, beginning with managing partner Zeke Methena.
I come from 33 years of law enforcement, became a firearms instructor in 1984 through the police academy. 1988, we formed a large multi-jurisdictional SWAT team, and I was one of the lead firearms instructors for that too.
Let's start with what motivated you to start a gun store or open a gun store in the first place.
Well, it started with, I've thought about it through the years, being involved in firearms as long as I have. I've seen some gun shops where, the customer's not totally treated as well as could be. We've experienced this with people we've had training at the range even recently, where they'll go into a gun shop, they're brand new to guns, they'll explain, I have these physical limitations and I don't know anything about guns, and really they're kind of taking advantage of. They're sold guns that really are not appropriate for them, and they end up having to try to bring them back or trade them for something else. So it really kind of started with the range. We've been doing firearms training up there for quite a while. The range facilities in Citrus Springs, not far from here. And I just saw, I come from 33 years of law enforcement where training was, especially firearms training, high liability thing. We shot and did firearms qualification 4 times a year. In SWAT, we shot every month. And then you see people take a course to get their concealed weapons license, and the course is minimal at best, and that's all the training they get. They get the training enough to get a permit, and now they're going to carry a gun. And I mean, that's crazy. So you have to have some kind of preparation for things that you're going to encounter out there.
You chose this location for the store. I know it's close to your training facility, but what was your motivation for the location?
Well, actually, Bill said it best when we were considering some of the places we looked at. He said this location actually chose us. And we had looked all around this area. Some things very visible from the road, some not. We got a call from the property manager here. We're working with a small business administration. It's business people that help startups. It's called SCORE. We're working with them. But she called SCORE also to say, hey, do you have anybody that that you might want to approach for rental space? And at the same time, she had reached out to us. Coming from where I come from up north, as I said, I think if you went to open a gun shop in a plaza like this with businesses all around, I think up north they'd be all getting together, signing a petition to keep us out. Here, she actually sought us out, invited us here, and said, everybody's so excited about having a gun shop, which I was like, yeah, sure. But it turned out to be true. Everybody we met said, oh my God, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? This is going to be great.
So what would your shop specialize in? What aspect of shooting do you want to concentrate on?
Well, we'll concentrate on anything really. To start with, if you see most of the supply we have in the inventory that we acquired in preparation for opening, it's all defensive stuff, carry guns. The compact 9mm are all the rage that people can carry, as well as the 380s. So, for instance, I'm not a hunter, never been a hunter. I don't have anything against it. My freezer was always full of venison. But I don't have that experience. So we actually encourage people to come in and we'll say, hey, this is what we're carrying and stuff. But if you see something that you think we should, also carry, we're open to that. You know, what are you looking for? I mean, sometimes you get the way out outer space thing of, you know, I want this and that's, you know, some things, you know, that you barely ever heard of before. But we get a lot of, you know, hunting people, other people just target shooters, long-range target shooters that want different type of guns and ammunition, and that's what we try to include.
The courses that you offer, to tie it into the gun store, we had talked previously about how most gun stores just hand a person a gun and they don't know what they're doing with it and send them off. And like you said, the basic requirement course for a concealed carry in Florida is very basic and doesn't go into all the aspects that you talked about. In your store, how are you going to tie the training into somebody who, I come into your store and buy a gun? What are you going to do? Are you offering any related discounts to take the safety courses or that type of?
Well, yeah, I would say I've worked in a lot of different gun shops before, mostly doing training, but sometimes helping out just within the store itself. So you see a lot of different ways the sale is handled. You know, some salesperson, you know, they'll show you, okay, here's how you load the magazine. This is where the magazine goes. Here's the safety if the gun has one, and here's the slide stop. And that's pretty much it. I haven't seen anything in greater detail, and it just kind of bothered me what we want to do, and we've already done it with some people. I said, if you have a new shooter or somebody new to handgun training or handguns and they're buying a handgun, what we tell them is, okay, buy some ammunition, and we schedule a time with them and we do it as demand dictates. Come up to the range facility, we'll bring them in the classroom, go over some safety with them, step out in the range, show them how to load their magazine if it's a semi-auto, how to load the gun itself, how to charge the gun. They can shoot at a target, so we're teaching them proper stance and grip, sight alignment. Let them shoot the gun, then teach them to unload it, how to check it and make it safe. And then, of course, that leads to the next question. Hey, if you're looking to proceed on and get your concealed weapons license, we do those classes here. Now they've already seen the facility, they've already experienced it. So that class, that familiarization thing with their new gun, is actually free. They're paying. It's their gun, their ammunition. Of a gun at your store
would be free.
Yeah.
That's in this day and age, when you have so many new shooters, people new to guns, that's priceless. It's a little bit scary because, as a person that's been around guns for a long time myself, I see a lot of people that are new to guns, and it must be incredibly disturbing to you that they're not, they don't train.
Well, plus there's the availability of good training. You know, you go in Florida to get your concealed weapons license. You might take an hour and a half, 2-hour course, and they have everybody step out back and shoot 122 into a sand bucket. Or we had a party in here the other day that's telling us he and his wife shot like an airsoft gun. I mean, what? I mean, it's just crazy. And now you get a permit, and just think about this. Whatever training you get a permit, and now you can carry. So what happens then? You're going to stick a gun in your waistband or in your pocket? What about what you're going to encounter out there? There's people that have no clue. If they're confronted, they think they're going to just draw their gun, and I don't know what's going to happen.
I've had the pleasure of taking a number of your courses, from the basics to some of the more advanced courses, and two things that stand out to me is the ratio, instructor to student ratio, is higher than I've ever seen before, and I've taken several of the courses back in New York, and never saw that type of instruction where you make sure they're doing it and understand the concepts and are safe when they're actually doing it. And also, if you talk a little bit about, at the beginning course for the concealed carry, how you introduce them to different types of guns. Because one of the problems with new shooters is they have no idea what is right for them or wrong for them. They never have a chance to shoot the gun before they buy it. So address those two things, the instructor ratio, and the introduction to guns in general.
Okay. Well, first, the class itself, when they come to the class, there's sometimes people, especially a woman, will have their mind made up. I want a revolver. My husband or my boyfriend or my friend or whatever has, one of those, semi-auto where you got to pull the slide back and then I don't want to have to do that. I just want a revolver that I can just load and shoot. So you're right. They really don't know this stuff. A lot of those people end up changing their mind rather quickly. The class itself, at times we get people, especially again women, that come in and say, I'm just here. My husband's been on me to get my permit for a while, so I'm taking a class. I get calls from people that say, we've heard about your classes, we're so excited, we want to take the class, we didn't buy my wife's gun yet. And we'll go, don't buy anything. So they come into the class, we do 4.5 hours of classroom instruction. I bring about 16 different guns, so they know the difference between single and double action revolvers and single and double action semi-auto and striker fired guns. We go over obviously safety, we go over some shooting fundamentals with stance, grip, sight alignment, etc. And we cover a lot of Florida law as well as the use of deadly force, which is pretty much the same in all the states. But Florida statutes, and we cover not just statutorily the language, but also the way it's being applied. Because as you see, but with what's happening in our country now, it's not the letter of the law. A lot of it's politicized. Thank God Florida doesn't do that. So anybody listening to this tonight, when you say your prayers, say, thank God I'm in Florida.
Amen.
So then we step out into the range and they shoot a .22 revolver, a couple of .22 semi-autos, a couple 380s, a couple 9mm, a couple 38s, and a .45. And we're doing that just to try to help them find something that's a good fit for them, as well as get the experience that if they came across something or gained control of something, they at least have some idea of how it operates and what to expect from recoil and function of the gun itself. When they come out into the range to do that shooting, there's an instructor at each point. One instructor with the .22s, one with the 380s, one with the 9mm, one with the 38s and the .45. So there's always one-on-one instruction. And as we tell them in the class, we're talking about firearms. With firearms, there's no oops or my bad, because an accident usually results in somebody being seriously injured or killed. So we're on it as far as that goes, and we help people get through it and handle them properly.
Now that beginner course, as everybody knows in our day and age, ammo's a little hard to come across. Is ammo supplied in that course?
Yep.
Within the price structure of the course?
Yep, so the class is $85. It includes the class, the use of the firearms, and the ammunition. I think it's just really important that people do this and get an idea of what's going to work for them. The alternative is they go into a gun shop and they pick up a gun, and it could be husband and wife, and she goes, oh, honey, this is so nice. It's really light. It's really light, and look, it's got rubber grips. Oh, I really like this. And then you go out and pull the trigger on it, and it's, oh my God, I can't shoot this thing. So that's really why we cover.
Could be an expensive mistake.
Yeah, and it's like buying a new car and driving it off the lot. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And you try to back up into the lot, and it's already a used car. So.
Now you have unique instructors too that have extensive backgrounds that have worked in the field, such as yourself. and also instructors that have knowledge of medical treatment for wounds and things of that aspect. One in particular I'm thinking of. Want to tell us a little bit about Bill and his background?
Well, Bill Aldridge comes from, I guess he was a firefighter for a while, and then he got into the emergency medical field. He was teaching at the Baltimore Fire Academy. I know he's got 35, 40 years into this. He's seen a lot of things, being from a major city. And he mentions, too, that he's come from the other side where he's seen what gunshots do to people. So he teaches we call it the gunshot wound class, but it's actually more than that. It entails tourniquets and combat gauze. It's for any major bleeding event. I look at it as, it doesn't have to be a gunshot. You could be just driving down the street and you get hit by somebody. You end up with a compound fracture. That bone exits and clips a major blood vessel. You're going to bleed out before the first officer ever gets there. So it's important to recognize that and be prepared for that. He does a really good class with a lot of repetitions.
Now, a number of your instructors are also behind the counter in your gun store. Most gun stores, like you said, sometimes it's not the best experience in some places. Here, it seems to be that most of the instructors are not only just salespeople, but experienced in using a gun and training as such as yourself. What do you think makes your gun store most unique?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, Bill and my son Jeff and I, we all are very experienced, and each person brings a different type of experience. They can all be encountered the same event and walk away with a different aspect of it. So that works out well here. One of the things that we've seen through the classes was people buying a gun, and that was another motivator for us to open up, that go into a gun shop and just lay it all out. Listen, I don't know anything about guns. I have these physical limitations that I'm dealing with. I need help. I want to get, I was thinking about getting this or this. What do you think? And they'll actually lay themselves out. We've had these people come up to the range to take our first class, and they're being sold guns that are totally inappropriate for them. We had a woman, older woman, a very petite woman who's had multiple shoulder surgeries. They sold her a 12-gauge shotgun, pump shotgun. And when she said, and she laid it out to them, I can't shoulder it. They said, oh, it comes with a pistol grip. There was one of the Mossberg kits with the pistol grip as well as the stock. I mean, another two elderly women, a lady and her cousin that lived together, they sold them a snub-nose 38 that's double action only. One of them can't even pull the trigger on it, thank God, because had they would have quickly found out this is not the gun for them. Here's a news flash. There's a lot of older people in Florida. Some of them have hand and wrist problems, and they can't handle a high-power handgun. So even if it's a 22s have killed a lot of people. 22's a very good defensive gun, and most shootings that I've investigated or been involved in or seen, no one turns around and asks, hey, is that a 22 you're shooting at me? If something goes bang, everybody's getting the hell out of Dodge. A good hit with a 22 is better than a miss with anything else in the world.
Absolutely. Last but certainly not least, the name of the store. How you chose it?
Well, Chuck was my father. I was the oldest of three, and my brother that was a year younger, and my sister that's 4 years younger. And my father was into shooting, would bring us out. My brother and I both had 22 rifles at like age 7. I still have mine. But he'd bring us out, treat us teach us safety. Pretty strict guy when it came to that, which you have to be. But we're always at the mercy of a landowner or the state, for a location where we can shoot. And many times we're going to go shooting the next day, and they come home and go, we can't go there. And the state closed it down, or this person sold the property, and we can't go shooting. So when I moved down here, I bought 5 acres of property just to have a place to shoot, but then it started developing into doing the classes, which are really important. It's important for people to have a way to advance their skills in preparation for what they're going to encounter.
Okay. At the training facility, one more question on that. You offer courses from the basic, and how advanced do the courses get? And is there a step thing where you have to take prerequisites?
Yeah, everyone is. So the first course that says it's a Florida CWL class, we get people that say, well, I've had my permit for 10 years. Well, things have changed. And, firearms is a perishable skill. So you need to take this class before you could go on to our first defensive class. Also in the CWL class, we're talking about magazine changes and giving you a whole host of information that you're going to actually learn those skills in the range on the next course, which is our first defensive handgun course. It's called Close Combat Defensive Handgun. And an example of one of the stages of fire, you're going to be just walking, and all of a sudden somebody takes you under fire. So you draw your gun, you're returning fire while you're moving to cover, and we teach proper use of cover. Then, of course, once you get to cover, you could provide more accurate fire. While you're doing that, the range is set up with innocent people posted there too, because that's reality. That's what's going to happen. There's more than likely going to be other people around, and not only do you have to stop the threat and survive the situation, but you got to do it without hurting anybody else.
Right. I noticed that in having the pleasure of taking several of the courses, that everything, you allow people to do things on the range that would help them train for a self-defense encounter that other ranges don't allow you to do, drawing from the holster, moving while shooting, things like that are kind of real-life type of things. You want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, well, even drawing from the holster is a big one. And I don't know of any public range that you could go to where you could draw out of your holster. And I understand the reason why. Because people, and we show videos in that first class of people drawing the gun out of the holster and get their finger on the trigger too soon, and they put a round down their leg. And then even people done shooting, they're going to reholster. They stick the gun in the holster, still have their finger in the trigger guard. Their finger hits the side of the holster, boom, they put a round down their leg. So obviously we insist that you carry the gun the way you're going to carry, with the holster that you're going to have. We want you to use your holster, your gun, in the manner of which you're going to be using it. So we want you to be drawn from the holster. We insist on it. Even some of the classes, we have a course, a steel challenge, introduction to steel challenge, which is a more fun course. I don't know if people realize, but it also entails a lot of these skills you're going to need, with drawing out of the holster. The steel challenge people, they don't like inside the waistband holsters. We insist on it because that's the way you're going to be carrying. So that mentality follows through all our stuff.
Very interesting. Well, it sounds great, and it sounds like it's going to be a very unique experience for people who shop at your gun store. And I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I also had the pleasure of speaking with Bill Aldridge, who is one of the managers and salespeople at the store, and also an instructor at their training facility. Let's start with your background, Bill.
Okay. My background is more from the fire service. I was a firefighter and a paramedic. Spent 32 years in the Baltimore County Fire Department, retired as a EMS lieutenant and an instructor at the Fire Rescue Academy. That gives me a little bit wider view on the worst case scenario for gun safety, because we always saw the end result of mishandling unsafe gun acts or people using guns for ill intent. My firearms background sort of started when I was a young kid. My father always taught us about guns, tried to get us out shooting as much as we can. He did the firearm safety. The NRA used to have a Eddie Eagle program that was great for kids. Basic firearm safety. It would reinforce the fact that as a youngster or as a child, if you found a gun, you basically went and found an adult. You didn't pick it up, you didn't play with it. That got my interest in it. Was on a rifle shooting competition team for a short period of time. Got into some hunting. As I grew older, became a hunter safety instructor up in Maryland. I got my NRA safety, range safety officer, pistol instructor, and rifle instructor, and began to teach classes. I'm originally from Maryland, so in 2013 they put in a firearm safety act in Maryland where you had to have a handgun qualification license to get a handgun. So a group of us in our shooting club, we got the instructor certification for that to make sure that people had the ability to exercise their Second Amendment rights by being able to purchase those guns, because at that point the instructors were very limited. So that's how I got into that. I met Zeke about 5 or 6 years ago working on an active shooter program. We did some training together up in Maryland as well as down here in Florida, and it just sort of melded the two because we were teaching fire departments and police departments how to respond to active shooter events. So we had the law enforcement component coming from Zeke, and we had the fire EMS component coming from me, teaching both entities how to work together effectively to save lives in an active shooter. Started teaching with Zeke at the range down here. My biggest thing is safety, again, because of my background. So I am meticulous and very non-forgiving with people that don't treat guns safely. So every time we do our training, when we do the steel challenge, typically it's my job to watch people when they draw out of a holster, because that's probably one of the most dangerous things you can do. Putting the gun back in the holster, again, very dangerous if you're not paying attention. So you have to have your full focus on that. So that's what we try to instill in people. The actual picking up a firearm, we teach people to do it the same way all the time, because that helps build muscle memory. You pick up a gun, you clear it and make sure it's safe. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to hand it to somebody, you clear it and you make sure it's going to be safe. You receive a handgun, clear it and make sure it's going to be safe. It's all about safety. Here in the gun shop, we have not sold somebody a gun because they're not exactly sure what they want to buy just yet. We've referred them to our classes so they can go out and shoot. In our basic class or our concealed carry class, they do all the law stuff and then they shoot 16, 18 guns, so they have an idea of how that feels. Because when we sell a gun, we want that person to be comfortable with that gun. Because if you're comfortable, you're going to feel safe, you're going to be safe, you're going to be effective if you ever need to draw that weapon and use it. We've had some people come in that they said they carry a gun but they're scared to shoot it, so they hope nothing ever happens. And that's not the way you should be, because if you're uncomfortable with it, you're not going to be safe with that gun.
I've had the pleasure of taking your gunshot wound class,
Yes.
and it was fascinating. I learned a lot. Could you talk a little bit about that? That's a little bit off the instruction of gun instructing, but could you talk a little bit about that course and if it's going to be offered through the store?
Sure. We developed that because our mindset is if you're going to carry a gun, you should learn how to stop bleeding. You should know how to stop bleeding. So we call it a gunshot wound class, but it's more for any major trauma. If you get hurt or whatever, bleeding is one of the most important things. You need to be able to stop serious bleeding quickly. So we go over tourniquet use, we go over wound packing. chest seals, all the stuff that you need to know in that critical first 10 minutes before, fire, EMS, and law enforcement get there. A lot of people don't think that it takes that long for, a paramedic to get there or the cops to get there. But, those first 10 minutes are very critical, because with serious bleeding, you could bleed out in a couple minutes. So being able to effectively put on a tourniquet or get that bleeding stopped is critical and paramount to saving somebody's life, whether it be your own life or one of your loved ones.
Okay. Anything in general you'd like to add?
Just that this has been something that I've thought about and wanted to do for a long time. Having the opportunity to come down and teach with Zeke, and then just the idea and how the gun shop came to fruition is it's amazing. The community, the area that we picked, I don't want to say it's very gun friendly, but the gun community here in Beverly Hills, Florida is strong. We really haven't advertised the store, but just by word of mouth and people walking by and seeing the signs, the amount of people that have come in, and the pleasantness of those people. They're welcoming us to the community. They're thanking us for opening a gun shop, and it's been really amazing.
Just like New York, huh?
I don't know about New York, but I don't think so.
No, I can tell you New York is very different. Okay, I want to thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavor, and I'm sure everybody will find at the store fascinating and special.
Thank you.
Okay. Once again, we're at Chuck's Guns. We have the pleasure of speaking with Jeff Methena, who is one of the store managers, store salesman, and an instructor at their training facility. You want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so growing up as Zeke's son, I've been around guns since probably 6 years old, 8 years old, since we started going to the range. In 1989, when Saddam invaded Kuwait, I dropped out of college, joined the Marine Corps in the infantry because I wanted to fight. So I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps in infantry, so I got a lot of background with defensive, weaponry, shot a lot of different weapons. The M16, I carried the M60 machine gun for a while, the SAW automatic rifle also, so got a lot of background there in the Marines. And then after I got out of the Marines, became a NRA certified firearms instructor for rifle and pistol, and I was teaching up in Connecticut before I moved down to Florida. So once I moved down to Florida, obviously with the range that we had, my father, I started teaching at the range also.
Right. Thank you for your service, first
thank
of all.
you.
And at the range, what would you consider your specialty?
I have a lot of experience with different handguns. So, I think when we get into the defensive classes, close combat, advanced classes, or the AR classes, I have a lot of experience with those things. So helping people with the shooting and moving, the close quarters shooting, things like that, giving hints and tips,
Great.
One, how to be safe in those situations, but two, without shooting yourself and drawing from your holster.
That would be a good
and especially shooting and moving. So.
Very good, very good. As far as being an NRA instructor, in the classroom part of it, do you get involved in any aspect of that yet?
Yeah, so in the classroom, usually what we'll do is when we're doing the CWL class or the basic class, Zeke will teach the first part of the class, and then I'll teach the second part of the class. I kind of take over and go over grip and stance, a lot of the fundamentals of the shooting, changing magazines for administrative reloads, emergency reloads, tactical reloads, explain to people what the purposes are. I explain a lot about the ammunition, misfires, malfunctions, things like that.
Yeah, I want to tell you, after taking the Steel Challenge, I was very impressed with your score sheets. I really was.
Oh,
You
my
really
Excel
get inside there
yeah.
and get it done, get
Yeah.
the job done.
That's the other thing. So, in my everyday job, I do IT work, so do
great.
cybersecurity and compliance. So I have a lot of
Really?
technical background. So help set up the store POS, all the systems in here. But then at the range, building the spreadsheets and the things.
Very impressive. I
Yeah.
really was impressed.
Yeah.
That's great. Anything you want to add about the store or how you deal with people in the store that's unique?
Yeah, I mean, if they look a little crazy, I run in the back and let Bill deal with them. No, I think, the unique thing, and I think Bill touched on it before, that we do is we're not going to just try to sell somebody a handgun to sell a handgun or a rifle. We want to make sure it's a good fit, make sure they have experience and they know what they're doing. If not, we try to push them to the classes. Even people that come in and say, "Oh, I got my CWL." Well, how long has it been? You know, when was the last time you went to the range? You know, come back out, because there's people that'll take the basic class over it. You don't need it just for your CWL. We go over basic handling functions. You know, there's a lot of good skill sets in there to learn in safety. So
It's very unique.
yeah, we'll try to push people there. Plus, I mean, you went to the class, you see all the guns we lay out for people, and you never know. You know, someone will tell you got to have a 44 Magnum, but you might not want a 44 Magnum, right? You might not want a 45. You might want to get a 22, something like that. So whatever feels good in your hand, and you can operate well.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add about your background or working at the store? Is it
No,
exciting?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's something I wanted to do for a while. You know, I've told my father and my brother years ago that we wanted to do this, you know. Being that my grandfather, Chuck, that it's named after, you know, got the whole family into guns. I said it's something we really wanted to do, and, you know, I'm really glad that we were able to do it with, you know, Bill's help, my father. We were able to all come together and make this happen, so I'm really excited about it. Things are going well.
Yeah, well, you have a heck of a staff. It's very impressive, and I wish you the best of luck in your endeavor.
All right, thank you.